Hello and welcome to Business Insider with Mario Toneguzzi on YYC Business, and brought to you today by MegaPixx Media. Joining me is Annie Dormuth, who is Director of Provincial Affairs for the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. Thanks, Annie, for joining us again today.
Oh, always great to be on the show, Mario.
Well, it's been tough, a tough year and a half almost now for small businesses across the country and in Alberta. The CFIB put out some new survey data today. What I found interesting is that 80% plus of businesses in Canada are not fully recovered, and 90% of the hard hit sectors like the hospitality, recreation, and restaurants, that kind of industry, are still not recovered. Man, that's when you look at those numbers, what goes through your mind in terms of the plight of small business owners?
Well, it definitely is that it's going to be an uphill battle to economic recovery. I know governments like to say, oh, because the economy is now fully open, that means everything is back to normal. That's not necessarily the realities of small business owners at this point. Although 80% of Alberta small businesses are fully open, only 30% are making normal sales for this time of year. That is a huge gap, again, between the number that are fully open and those back to making normal sales, and really indicates that although we are over a month past, again, the full reopening of the Alberta economy, businesses are simply not back to making normal sales, or even really close to or on their way to full economic recovery. Of course, those numbers are even more worrisome in the hardest hit industries such as arts and recreation. I'm thinking specifically about the fitness industry and the hospitality industry. Yeah. And even those event-based industries, it's important to recognize that the lead time for events is around 3 months. So those businesses that, again, have been largely pretty much closed for 17 months, they really aren't going to start seeing a return or making revenues until well into the fall, when events can start becoming more up and running and more common across the province and across Canada.
Let me just ask about the normal sales thing. This is kind of, I guess, a bit puzzling for me when you look at it. Okay, say in Alberta, okay, July 1st, and we've had a month now that fully open again, but the sales aren't there. So what is preventing the sales from getting back? Switching hit the rewind switch and get back to our normal sales. Like, what is preventing that if everything's open?
Well, it really depends on the industry. For example, the fitness industry, again, one of those hardest hit industries, their slowest time is actually in the summer months here. Of course, most people are working out outside and not really going back to the gym. Also, that their membership kind of, renewals and monthly memberships are by a monthly or even by a yearly basis. So a lot of that does affect the business owner in seeing that return to normal sales. With regards to, for example, the retail or hospitality industry, a lot of it is just seeing not the customers come back in person, or having a slow return of in-person sales to these industries. So it really, again, depends on the type of industry. I know I already mentioned the events industry, but again, probably not going to be seeing any type of revenues into the fall because of that 3-month lead time. So it really does depend on the type of business that the small business owner has.
Well, let's talk about one of the most troubling things I saw in your report today. Was the average was 25 months to get back to normal in Alberta. That's incredible.
That is, again, really quite worrisome. It's really also important to note that throughout this entire pandemic, Alberta has faced the highest rates of small businesses actively considering closing or claiming bankruptcy, as well as posting some of the highest average debt numbers related to the pandemic. So definitely small businesses, especially in Alberta, although we've had, a relatively, easing of restrictions compared to some other provinces. I think because of the pre-pandemic economic conditions, small business owners in Alberta are definitely going to face a tougher hill to climb to economic recovery. And again, at the current rates we are seeing with regards to, seeing that return to normal sales, on average, Alberta small business owners do say that it will take, again, at these current rates, 24 or 25 months to fully recover. And that includes even, paying back some of that COVID-19 related debt they have accumulated.
Yeah, so 2 years to fully recover. Like what keeps people going, I guess, like when you're faced with that daunting task and that sort of that daunting future, like this is a long haul. Like why why the people still keep going, I guess.
Well, of course, for small business owners, their business is their livelihood. In
Yeah.
some cases, they are the sole provider for their family. It is their retirement plan. It is their entire life savings, and it's in their entire life's work. They're incredibly passionate about their business, and of course, will continue to operate if they can under these levels, and just really hope for more economic recovery. It's important to note that although these are pretty grim results, there is optimism on the horizon. I think around 80% of Alberta small business owners were optimistic that there would be a return to more in-person sales and seeing customers in person again. Unfortunately, we're not seeing that throughout the summer here quite yet. But hopefully in the fall, we will see again more of a return to normal sales for our province's entrepreneurs.
So what does it mean from when you've done the survey of these small business owners? What does it mean for them to be back to normal?
Well, it's really basically seeing a return to pre-pandemic revenues. And again, making that return to normal sales. We are at 30% right now, only 30%, 1/3 are at that current return to normal sales, leaving, a vast majority of business owners still not there yet. And that's what they say means for their economic recovery, and full economic recovery, again, is returning to that pre-pandemic revenues.
Okay. When you look at things into the future, is it worrisome from your perspective, from the CFIB's perspective, that, okay, we're going to have 2 years of recovery, right? I highly doubt there's going to be 2 years of extended government support, right? So what's the thoughts around that in terms of, at some point the government's going to say, we're done with this, right? And then what for small businesses?
Well, unfortunately, we're already starting to see that. Although the federal government did make the right decision and reversed its decision to start rolling back and shutting off some of these critical supports to small businesses. I'm thinking specifically of the wage subsidy and the rental subsidy. But the province has also done it to a degree as well. They closed applications for its SME relaunch grant. So as we head into the summer here and into the fall, and if we're simply not seeing a return to normal sales and very slow economic recovery, it's really going to be up to the provinces and the federal government to perhaps look at additional supports to small businesses, especially looking at how can we help small businesses pay off their COVID-19 related debt. I'm going to throw out a very staggering number, but on average, the average small business owner in Alberta has taken on $246,000 worth of COVID-19 related debt. That is a huge number. It's going to take them years to pay that back. And that is why I think that considering that huge debt number in Alberta, and again in other provinces, perhaps other solutions to help small business owners pay back that debt will be needed.
So just to clarify one thing, that debt number is that simply because of COVID? That
Yes.
doesn't include maybe the other debt. Obviously, small business owners just get things running, do things, and take on a debt initially, right? So that doesn't include that prior debt that they had.
That is correct. That is simply just COVID-19 related debt, and really just points to the fact that largely small business owners didn't close because they took on more debt. And that is how they pretty much survived throughout the 17 months of the pandemic, and perhaps even continue to do so, again, because they're not seeing that return to normal sales. And Alberta, unfortunately, is the highest per average throughout the Canadian provinces. So again, as we look to economic recovery, we're going to have to look at, possible support or solutions to
Yeah.
help small business owners pay back that debt.
Any idea why Alberta would be so high compared to the other provinces?
Again, I think a lot of it could be contributed to the fact that we were in a pre-economic worrisome conditions prior to the pandemic. A lot of it did push small business owners over the edge. A lot of them were surviving by thin margins already, and then the pandemic hit, and they had to take on more debt and were put in more worrisome, situation. It's also why Alberta has, I think, posted some of the highest percentage of businesses at risk of closing at around 20%. I think maybe now we might be very close to Ontario on that, but earlier on in the year, in January, we were the highest.
Yeah. Okay, super. Thanks very much, Annie, for joining us again today.
Of course, anytime, Mario.
All right, that was Annie Dormuth, who is Director of Provincial Affairs for Alberta for the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. This has been Business Insider with Mario Toneguzzi on YYC Business, brought to you today by MegaPixx Media. Thanks for joining us.